Seems like YouTube loves brisket videos, so this weekend I'm out at my friends, the Remmele's, to cook one of their backyard briskets. These backyard briskets are perfect because they are about 10 pounds. Most of the trimming work is done for you, and I'm going to show you how to put one together that'll be a winner every time. But let's get into this and we'll show you how to trim it up. Really nice about this brisket is you can see a lot of the trim work has been done for you. We have minimal work to do here. We just need to clean up a little bit of the fat that's left on the top of our brisket here, as well as trim out some of that hard fat that's not going to render. And if we flip it over, you can see that the butcher did a really nice job of getting this down to about a quarter of an inch or so. We're going to trim off a little bit of that, but not too much. So for the trimming process, I used to use a boning knife, but I've resorted to using a larger slicing carving knife. This allows you to make nice smooth motions without having to trim too much into the meat. So take it slow and you'll get it right every time. So I'm going to begin by removing this fat that's over the top of this. And that looks absolutely perfect. So we're almost done here. Next thing you want to do is this hard piece of fat that's right here between where the flats and the point join together. That's not going to render out, so we want to get that trimmed out of there a little bit. And you want to be careful because you're trimming back here towards your hand that you don't slice any of your fingers off, and I'm happy with that there too as well. So we'll flip it over here, and I'll flip it this way so you can see on the camera side. But what I'm going to do is usually just want to cut just a small window into the side of your brisket. But the reason that I'm cutting that small window into there is so I can see how much fat that I have that's on the bottom of my brisket, because I want it to be consistent as I'm cooking this. And I want to make sure, since I'm cooking this over direct heat on the drum smoker, that I have enough fat there so that I don't dry things out, but that's going to also leave a little bit of flavor. And it's a little bit more than we'd like. We want to get this down to about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to go real slow and just take small sections of that off. And I'm pretty happy with that. We're all trimmed up. We're gonna get this injected. And for our injection, it's really easy. It's only 2 ingredients. 1/3 of a cup of the bovine injection marinade. You can pick up any injection and marinade that you like. This is just one, just happens to be my favorite. And 1 bottle of water. Gonna add and just give it a shake. So one question you might be asking yourself right about now is, why are we using an injection? The reason I use an injection is because cooking the brisket at the temperature we're going to cook it tomorrow on the drum smoker is you're going to be bound to lose a little bit of moisture, and having an injection in there is going to help the meat to retain some of that moisture, and it's also going to add a little bit of flavor in there. Start on the point end and work our way towards the flat. And I'm just going to inject 1 trigger pull about 1 inch apart all the way across our brisket. And I'd say that's ready for spice. But I'm only going to use a few rubs. We're going to use the Rio Valley Meat Blanco. This is a salt pepper rub that I've had a lot of success with on the competition trail. Highly suggest you give that a shot. The other rub that I'm going to use is the Smoke and Guns barbecue rub. This is a hot version of the rub that they make. Don't get hot confused with kind of like a jalapeno hot. This has a little bit of heat to it, but it's going to stand up really nicely to the beef. And then on the top only, I'm using something called Double Secret by Big Papa's. This is a larger granular salt and pepper rub that melts out and really mellows out and brings things all together. If you don't have all of these rubs, you can certainly just use salt and pepper or whatever you have on hand at home. I'd suggest maybe throwing a little bit of Lowry seasoning salt together with the coarse ground black pepper. But we're just going to go in the fridge for overnight. We'll fire up our smokers in the morning. Let our brisket sit in the injection and the rub overnight. So the next morning, I went ahead and got our smokers fired up. This north 300, somewhere between 300 and 350 is going to be ideal for this process. But we went ahead and set a water pan in our Gateway drum smokers. We loaded it up with 3 chunks of pecan. All that's left to do is just get our briskets on. I'm going to start with that brisket just right over our hot spot here. And we're going to let it sit there for about half an hour. And then we'll come back and we'll rotate it over to the other side. So our briskets have been on. They've been rolling for about 3 hours here. We have been rotating it between our hot side and our indirect heat on the drum smoker. They're temping out at about 160 degrees, which means it's time to get it wrapped up. For this one, we're going to use aluminum foil and a beef broth. Use whatever you find at the store that you love. Just keep it simple and you'll have great results. You can see our brisket looks nice. It's got a nice bark that's built up on there. Just going to put that right down in the middle. You want to be careful not to pour that over the top of your brisket because that's going to wipe off some of that bark that you've worked so hard to build. Just going to pour that around the side. And somewhere between 16 and 20 ounces of liquid is going to be what you're shooting for. And we're going to say that's going to be good there. And then all we got to do is just carefully get this wrapped up. It's all wrapped up, and this is going back on the smoker. We're gonna cook this till it gets to about 210 degrees. And 210 is gonna be the perfect temperature, ideal temperature. Sometimes plus or minus given the briskets we have, but the Remmeles really raise a high quality beef product here. The higher the fat concentration of your brisket, the higher the finishing temperature is gonna be. You're gonna wanna cook that nice and long. Your total cook time should be between 5 and 6 hours. It's time to get our briskets off. They have risen to the appropriate temp. I'm just taking a thermal pen, an instant read thermometer, ready to go. It feels nice and smooth and tender. We're probing into there, so we're gonna take this out. We're gonna put it in the pan and get it into our Cambro, and it's gonna hang out for 3 hours until it's time to serve dinner. All right, so our brisket's been resting for 3 hours. I got a lot of hungry folks here. It is time to get this sliced up. This has been a really simple process. I hope it really helps you guys at home to nail your first brisket cook or your 20th brisket cook. Hopefully you picked up a few tips. If you did, make sure you let me know in the comments. And if you're liking this comment, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Big shout out to the Remmeles for having us out to the farm this weekend and sharing their delicious beef products with us. Let's see how we did. And there she is in all her glory, looking nice and juicy. Got a nice jiggle to her there. And we've got all that au jus in the bottom. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put that in our serving pan. And what I like to do is slice right down the middle of our brisket here. And we'll give the camera a nice cross section of that. You can see we developed a really nice smoke ring in there in just a couple of hours. We've got a really nice juicy piece of meat, and you really know you did a good job. And that fat that was between the point and the flat just kind of falls right out of there just by with your finger. When you're slicing a brisket, you want to remember to slice against the grain. All right, so we're gonna start and we'll just get in here and get after it and see how we did. Of course, I've got some helpers that smell that deliciousness that are ready to dig into it as well. And we'll grab that slice right there. But look at that, nice drape on your finger, nice and delicious. It smells beefy, it looks good. That's a good piece of brisket. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.